right, Ken Tucker, how's it going, buddy?
Scott, I'm doing great, man. It's been a little while. It's nice seeing you over the holidays and played a little bit of golf, but now you're
Yeah,
back in the warmth and I'm in the
exactly.
cold.
Yeah, I mean, it's relative warmth, though. I mean, I do walk every day in shorts, so I've got that going for me,
Yeah,
but it's still a little chilly. As
not
you can
not
tell,
not
I'm
here
indoors with
anymore.
a sweatshirt on.
Yep, yep. I'm just stressing from it's been really mild to now it's cold and now how am I going to get through all the work we have? So I'm back in that, that scrambled brain
Standard Kenny
rot.
Tucker cycle. Yeah,
Absolutely. It's
it's
crazy.
not the same as a standard Sudoku, though, right?
Never. Yeah, oh, 100%.
Well, so we're going to try to move this thing a little bit to a topic base so that people can look at it. So one of the things that we've kind of talked about and have run into, certainly everybody in business likes to talk about their sales process. I know you're in the process of kind of honing yours to the next level. So let's kick around what it means to sell and try to look at it through the lenses of the consumer, the manager, the employee, the salesman, whatever. So I'm gonna let you kick it off since you have a staff of what, like 3,000 people now, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so I'm trying.
Something like that. Yeah.
So right now I'm trying to really refocus. Obviously, I don't like anybody selling to me, so I try to put myself in the
Right.
place of the consumer. At the same time, I have employees that are goal driven and they want to make money and the like. So trying to create this thing where I can create opportunities, but we're doing it in a manner that is accepted by the consumer. So I look at us as we're actually obviously in the HVAC trade and plumbing, and I look at us as educators. So our job is to educate the consumer on potentially what's out there, what might be going on with their system in the now. It's the consumer's decision as to how much money should I put into a repair versus should I replace. That's their decision, but all we can do is kind of educate on where they are. So I'm really trying to get back to my people because they also do not want to be known as salesmen or women. So
Right.
I'm trying to deal with that. And one of the ways I'm dealing with it is I kind of have, to me, there's three things that go on in a transaction. My employee has to be confident in themselves and their own abilities. They have to be confident in the products that we're talking about or we're talking to the consumer about. And then they have to be confident in our company, meaning they have to have confidence that whatever they sell or provide to the consumer, we can install it and do it in a manner that's awesome, right? So you kind of have those three, and if any one of those three things is falling down, they're going to struggle. If they don't have confidence, no matter how good the product is, they're going to come off wrong to the consumer. If they have confidence in themselves, but they don't like the products that we sell, nobody can sell something that they don't believe in, or at least do it well. And then thirdly, if they have any doubts about my organization, then they're also going to have a hard time talking about replacement equipment and the like, because they're going to feel like their consumer is going to be taken care of better if I just repair it, right? So again, if they're good at all three, or if they're capable in all three, then the consumer, we just educate and let the consumer decide what's best for them, because it's not our decision to make. So I'm in that process right now, and I'm creating kind of a 4-part class, and my first one is tomorrow. So I have the majority of the company coming in to do it. So,
What's your first class on?
So really, we're going to focus more. I'm going to let them know about those 3 topics, and tomorrow we're focusing on them. I'm going to really try to figure out individually. I want them to. Hopefully I create something that each person individually will get something out of it from themselves, right? So I have my maintenance division is going to be there, so they're very young, so they're probably going to be lacking in some of their own internal confidence. I have some guys that are on my demand side of service that are very confident, but I got to make sure there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, right? So if you come off arrogant to the consumer, again, you're going to fail, right? So I'm going to be discussing all of that kind of stuff. So tomorrow is going to be more global, about themselves, if you will. And then the next one is going to be about the product. But in this process, if anybody comes up with a concern about a product, I'm going to need to address it.
Yeah.
So we're,
Yeah, so we're kind of trying to look at it through the lens of the employee. And I mean, I think you've summed it up brilliantly. Confidence in the company is a matter of you as a leader being able to help them understand the value proposition of the company, right? The mission, vision, values, how we hold each other accountable, our hiring practices, all the things that are the essence of your, what you would call culture.
Yep.
The product, it's an interesting conundrum, right? Because, there are other quality products out there.
Absolutely.
So it's not just a matter of, well, ours is the only, because then if we had the perfect product, then everybody would be selling it.
Yep.
So, that one's, I think goes in hand with the company. There's a reason why you've chosen to sell whatever products you've sold over the years and why you've chosen to go away from certain products, because you make those decisions based on your value system.
Absolutely.
The confidence in self is tough, isn't it? How do you build confidence in your employees so that when I walk into a customer interaction, I can be confident in my, I work for a good company, my boss is a good guy, the product that we sell is a good and it's well priced and we know that it runs well and we stand behind it. How do I have confidence in my presentation skills? How do I develop that?
And nobody really wants to admit that they don't have confidence in themselves, right? So
right.
Yes, right. So within that process, what's going to be interesting is I'm going to try to take confidence and put it in a couple of different parts, right? I might be very confident in myself and my ability to learn and my ability to talk to a consumer, but I might not be confident in my ability to fix something yet because maybe I'm a little bit greener. So I also have to be able to determine, am I focusing on their technical skills as confidence, or am I talking about their, maybe it's an introvert who just doesn't enjoy having those conversations, or maybe it's an individual who has confidence in all of the above, but maybe they're struggling financially. So how do I make sure that they're not morphing that on top of the consumer, because maybe it's a consumer that's in the same situation. Maybe it's a consumer that isn't in that situation. So we can't have any preconceived notion. So, to try to build confidence in them individually, at the same time, trying to teach them how do you, I don't want to say read the consumer, but how do you work on understanding people, right? So, where are people coming?
Yeah.
What kind of individual are you talking to? It's a whole different process if you're talking to an engineer than if I'm speaking to a computer programmer, right? Or a doctor or a nurse or something. It's a completely different conversation,
Right.
So there's the technical side to it, and then there's the side where you just need to touch on they need to know what you're talking about, but you don't want to get into so many details where somebody's not going to care about static pressure. Somebody's not going to care about some of that stuff, right? So how do you when do you delve into it deeper and when do you not? Because if my job,
I think that's some of the easy. Oh, good.
No, you're good. You're good.
I think that, some of the easy part of confidence is, skill development. So exactly what you're saying, do I understand the product? Do I understand my company? Do I understand, what I'm doing here? I think some of it is also that sense of security in their job. That if I sit here and I say to this, potential customer, hey, so, here's what I'm seeing. Here's what the situation is. Here's the product we use. We're a solid company. Here's our value proposition. And listen, there's other companies out there that could provide this service. Let me tell you what our value proposition is, and it's up to you to make your own decision. If you're coming from a place of insecurity, that's kind of hard to just kind of do that.
Yep. Yeah, because if you're coming from that place of insecurity, I think people have a tendency to try to prove their value. So now you can also, if I'm gonna prove to you how smart I am, now it's a whole nother, I'm coming at it from a whole different angle, and it kind of can be offensive sometimes, or
Yeah.
at least a turn off.
Right. 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 Like I'm trying to do the hard sell.
Right.
Right. You come off like a used car salesman.
Yes. I mean, this is what you have. I mean, this is what you need to do. And, all of a sudden you're telling the consumer,
Right.
I don't think it ever can go well. And I know I'm somebody where I'll never buy on the spot. Right. So,
Right.
I still want to be able to have time to do my research and things like that. So, but that doesn't mean everybody feels that way. Right. But
Right.
if they're educating me and all the ducks are lined out and I feel confident that I'm the one making the decision and I'm driving this transaction as a consumer,
Right.
I'm probably good. It's that other side of it when it's like, and anytime you take somebody and now they don't feel like they're in control, and you can't be in control if you feel like you're being sold something, but you can
100%.
be in control if you feel like you're being educated. And I think that kind of works everywhere, but I think, I see you have some thought, your brain's kind of going crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm still thinking, and I want to take this over because we have the other example too, but let's stay here for a second. You're standing there talking to that consumer, and I think this is where the whole lens thing really does apply. And I think it might help if you can talk to your employees about it, right? Because you don't make assumptions about the lens they're looking at it through, right? Because if you're standing there in somebody's townhouse that they anticipate moving out in the next 2 years, they're looking at this transaction completely differently than if this is their forever home and they're going to die here, as two ends of the spectrum, if you will. Most of us fall somewhere in between those two, right? There are people who look at this and go, I want the best HVAC system I can buy. And there's people who say, I want to spend as little money as possible, and everywhere in between.
Yep.
And so it really does just come down to, in some ways, being inquisitive of the person to try to understand, read the person, get to know the person, whatever it is you want to call it, but to really start to ask the questions of, so, tell me how you're looking at this HVAC situation in your house. Is this a house you're going to stay in for 10 years? Is this a house you're getting ready to leave from? Is this, are you in a position where you're looking for the highest and best products? Are you looking for green products? Are you looking for, tell me a little bit about what's important to you.
Yep.
Which again, I think I have to be confident in my ability to then, depending upon what they say, be able to have an actual dynamic conversation.
Right.
And it is fascinating, right? Because that's a skill in and of itself. I might be really good at fixing HVACs or installing HVACs. Doesn't necessarily mean I have those interaction skills, right?
Yeah, and I think when you get into, depending on if you're selling services, which is what we sell, now all of a sudden when my brother was out selling it as my business partner, when he was the one that was doing all of the work, well, he's an owner, his last name is Tucker, you have kind of instant credibility. And one thing that I'm trying to work with our employees about is you got to get away from that, right? So you can't use an excuse like, oh, well, I'm not a Tucker, so I can't. They don't see me the same way. Well, that's the part that I'm trying to grow.
Right.
So who cares what the name of our company is?
Right.
It could be anything, all season. It could be anything, right? So if it's just a generic name, does that make it easier for you to sell? Well, probably not. So let's just kind of.
I mean, it's that ability to say, listen, I've been in this business for 7 years now. Blah blah blah. It is that ability to recognize that simultaneously I know what I'm talking about and I have more to learn.
Yep.
And I think we see confidence as an either or, like we do it in education certainly, but I mean, I'm sitting here wearing my golden knight shirt, right? I mean, at any given moment as a black belt or a second degree black belt or a fifth degree black belt, you walk in the ring and get your butt kicked every now and again.
Yep.
Does that mean that you suck? No, you don't suck. You had an off night, they had a good night, whatever it is. There's always that chance for failure in the moment. And confidence is seeing that long-term effect of I'm confident and I'm good at what I do, and that doesn't mean that I'm not going to make mistakes or be presented with a learning opportunity. I mean, it's our golf group, right, Kenny?
Yeah.
If I shoot 78, 78, 81, 78, and then a 95, and then some people whom we know who shall go nameless, say, see, that proves that I'm really a 20 handicapper. And you and I look at it and go, well, that was just a bad round. That one doesn't count.
Yep.
I'm actually a 7 handicap.
Yep.
And it really is a mindset thing from a confidence standpoint.
Absolutely.
It is an interesting.
But it works off of,
good luck with that, buddy.
Well, but it also works off of every industry. I mean, it's no different than you having to, I guess part of my dilemma is I don't necessarily like the word sell. We're all selling. I mean, there isn't a job out there there isn't sales involved with it. You could be an administrator of an organization. You still have to sell yourself to the people that are around you as peers, managers, or whatever.
Yeah.
So we all sell, but like even in your world,
it's become a dirty word though, right?
Yeah, it really kind of has done, because it has become a dirty world too, but
that's a different episode.
But even in your instance, when you're talking to companies or you're looking at the big organizations out there that you work with, you still have to be able to educate them on your values.
Sure.
Which then opens it up. If you're just trying to sell them, it is still, I think selling is difficult. Educating is relatively easy if you know what you're talking about.
And if you're not trying to make the sale, but rather match up what they need. It's funny, for those who would be on here who don't know. So I'm a half owner of an electric bike store.
Yep.
It's fascinating. The sales process there, if you want to call it that, quote unquote, has nothing to do with electric bikes. It's really funny. Like we basically say we sell fun. And so the sales process is, hey, have you ever been on an electric bike? Well, no. Great. Give me a copy of your license, take it out for 20 minutes. And they come back in all full of smiles and you go, what color do you want? And they're already ready to go. Not because they know what size the motor is or because of what they get on the bike, it's comfortable, they like it, and they had a great freaking time. And they're like, wow, I like this feeling, right?
Yeah.
And we're selling them on that fun, if you will. And it does come down to being able to be knowledgeable and understand, because obviously that market has flooded now. And there are bikes that are very inexpensive, and there are bikes that are very expensive. There's companies that have cropped up that are transaction based. I can go on the internet and find an e-bike for $1,000. There are others that, which is like ours, it's kind of developed along the Harley Davidson model where, we're kind of your dealer for life. You come in, part of what you get is an extended warranty as part of the purchase. Your first 2 years of maintenance are on us. We want you to come back to us and interact with us and get, a lifetime basically of a relationship.
Yeah. And
so it's a different quote unquote sales process because, it's funny, one of the things, not just you, every industry that I interact with, one of the questions I ask is, tell me about a customer that you don't want to work with. Tell me about a customer that if they say, nah, I'm good, you go, okay. Yep. And I think, because our lens as leaders and owners of companies is we don't ever want to lose a sale. Right. And I truly believe that there are sales you want to lose, because if they don't understand your value proposition, they're going to be a thorn in your side.
Absolutely.
And they're never going to be happy because they don't understand your value proposition. They're trying to buy the cheapest air conditioner possible, and you're selling them a lifetime relationship with a high quality company that cares. Yep. And they don't care about any of your value proposition. And every time something breaks, they're pissed off. They're nickel and diming me. And even if you do it for free, they're like, well, it's just inconvenient to me. And they're not going to be happy with the fact that, you sold them a lifetime relationship and they just wanted the cheapest air conditioner.
I was working with a client the other day who the reality is the wife wants to work with a company that's 10 employees or less. I can't ever be that. And I hope I'm never that again. Right. So it's okay.
No.
But for me, if I'm now feeling like, well, I have to show her that I can act just like a company that's 10 people or less, well, I can't,
Yeah.
because her
What's your point? I mean,
yeah,
why
yeah.
try to be something you're not?
So I'm just upfront and honest about it. And what's interesting through that conversation, now they might feel like they want something more, but the fact of the matter is at some point they're going to come back to that, right? So they had a bad experience with a really large company. They've had good experiences with me, but they want to lump me into that same big company kind of thing or mentality, and that's okay. The big company, the owner wasn't calling to talk to you about your experience and how did it go or whatever. But then the fact of the matter is,
Yeah.
but the reality is I can't be what they want out of a contractor, and I recommended them to try to find that, and it was interesting. And when we're going through it, I didn't get into it with them, but if you're working with anybody that really doesn't want to grow, then that business really isn't trying to take care of their employees. If I'm happy and comfortable with our size and I'm 8 people and that's where my comfort zone is, and I don't ever want to go any larger than that, then the other 7 people that are working with me aren't growing either, because if you're not growing, you can't pay anymore.
Right.
So it can't work.
Their option for advancement is to leave the company.
Come to mind.
Right. I mean, the only way in an 8-person company, their only chance for advancement was to leave the company. Yep. We see it over and over again.
Yeah. I have a plumber.
So it's interesting. So
yep.
You have your people looking at you going, you just want to make money?
I'm going to talk over top of you, so I apologize for that. But one other thing, I have a plumber that's starting in 2 weeks, and he's coming to me from an organization. It's 3 people, the owner and 2 helpers. He's a really good plumber. He makes okay money, but the owner isn't trying to grow. There is no upside for this guy. He heard about us and he starts, paying attention to us or whatever. And he comes in, and this guy I think is going to be a rock star. He's as motivated and excited as anybody that I've ever seen coming into my door for the first time. But that's an example of he's in a place that he feels stagnant.
So it's funny, because what I would offer to you, and I'm going to take this in a slightly different direction because we're going to run out of time here, is if I could change that word from sales to you just be your authentic self. So it's interesting, who sold this guy that the place to come work is Tucker's? Well, somebody out there, he heard about Tucker's, whether it was from a client, whether it's from a person who works for you or whatever it is. Somehow somebody sold him on the idea, but the truth is all you really did was Tucker's is living their, your mission, vision, values, your value proposition, the way that you interact in the world, the way that you personally interact, the way that your employees interact, led to this guy, because that's a sales process too, isn't it? When you're hiring a new employee, aren't you selling them on coming to work for you? And aren't they selling you on you want me and instead of that other person?
Absolutely.
And I think that that's a transactional way to look at it. And to me, and I think you've heard me say this, and if you haven't, then shame on me. If you're your authentic self, whether that's a company, whether it's you as a human being, whatever it is, it gives people the opportunity to either choose to join or self-select away from you. Because some people are going to listen to your stuff and go, that's not the kind of person I want to hang out with. And you know what's great about that? When they self-select, you don't waste time trying to sell them on something they don't want anyway.
Right.
Now, if you're being a fake version of yourself and you attract people who are attracted to the fake version, at some point the real version comes out, and then they're like, wait a minute, that's not the Ken Tucker I thought I was going to work for.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where we could kind of maybe get an inroad from that lens standpoint of, to your people, listen, don't look at it through the lens of sales. Look at it through the lens of, you're living our mission, you're living our vision, you're living our values. So when you interact with that customer, and I don't know your values offhand, but how do we take our value statement and operationalize that in interaction with a person? And you just be a representative of the organization as the organization is meant to be, and just be authentic about it.
Yep.
And if the person chooses to walk away, that's okay. That's a customer we don't want to work with. They don't understand our value proposition. Yeah. As long as you're your customer or your person is confident in the self, confident in the product, confident in the company. I think that's one lens to look at it. And then the other is, how did you conduct yourself in that interaction that's consistent with our culture of our company?
So,
And
so
if
I
you
think,
did,
yeah,
look what happens. People come, they're like, I want to go work for Tucker, right?
absolutely. You know, one of
Yeah,
our big values that we put to our employees is empowerment, right? We want to empower our employees.
right.
So when you talk about being your authentic self, I wouldn't want to empower my employees if I wasn't culturally hiring the right people who I
100%.
trust the intangibles are their authentic self. And then so I actually wrote that down because I like the way you stated that. Because it kind of becomes, you know, every one of us has a story. You have a story that has you sitting in the seat you're sitting in right now. I have a story, but my employees have a
Right.
story too. And if that story
Yeah.
happened to be, I was in an organization that culturally wasn't authentic, culturally wasn't designed around the values of taking care of the consumer, and they found themselves here because we are, that's a great story to tell a consumer, because that story will
Sure.
help build trust, right? You
But
know,
look, even your word empowerment, take your word empowerment, right? So as a company, we try to empower each other to be the best version of ourselves. We try to help you find, I mean, I know you've done training opportunities for people on how to finance your first home, and I know you try to help your employees be better versions of themselves. So when that employee sits in front of the customer and says, listen, one of our key values is empowerment. So we're going to have this conversation, and what I want to do is give you all the information you need to make the best decision for you, because I don't know your situation. So I want to empower you to make a good decision, whether that's with Tucker or whether it's with somebody else. I mean, the script writes itself, doesn't it?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. But now it's,
And it's
go ahead.
go, go ahead.
And it is when I believe so strongly in my people and what we're doing and the products that we sell, that it just rolls right off of me. And I'm trying to get that
Right.
into the hands of my employees. It just needs to roll off of them. But sometimes, again, as long as every one of my employees is being their authentic self, it just
Yeah.
is, it's natural.
It
It
just
just
happens.
happens
Right.
naturally. And the difficulty is
Right. We're not
getting
trying to
them
write them a script.
no, but get them to see that lens of how valuable authenticity is, and what are they going to do with it,
Yeah.
right? So, and I'm just trying to,
Right.
all I'm really trying to do in this whole sales process is just, I mean, maybe it is change the lens again or whatever, but let them see
Yeah.
exactly who they
Yeah.
are, so they can run with who they are. And if they get so good at it that they decide to go into business for themselves, that's probably the ultimate compliment to me.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. You should build your own. I mean, hopefully they never leave, but
Yeah.
honestly, if they do, how great is that? I
Yeah.
mean,
I'm
yeah.
still the
But I
guy
do
that I
think that
work for, the gentleman that I worked for 12 years as a client of mine. I did something completely different. I would not be doing what I was doing if
if it
it
wasn't for his
wasn't
push.
for him and what he instilled in me, and him making me realize that there is so much more for me than what I was going to get with him. And we're still friends, and he's a client of mine. You know?
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's how it works.
All right, Kenny, listen, we're going to
All
wrap
right.
it up because we're trying to stick to a half hour, trying to be topic based. So tonight's topic was the sales process, which I think as we start to look at it through different lenses really becomes just a authentic living of your own self in the context of the culture of the organization you work for, and presenting that to the consumer. I think that's a good conversation. I'll give you the last word to sum up.
Oh, I've been thinking about this all day, so I don't have a summation for you. You know, I would kind of say it's like, you know, everything that we're doing kind of still pulls back into, you know, the lenses, how we see things. And I think if you're going to try to make improvements in yourself for your employees or for your clients or whatever, I think you have to have that, you know, you got to be that authentic self. You have to have, you know,
Yeah.
trust and confidence in yourself, trust in whatever you're talking to the consumer about. You know, let's all become educators, it's partly what hopefully you and I will slowly accomplish in doing this podcast is, just
100%.
trying to create some educational tools to the people out there to help everybody improve themselves.
Yep, agreed.
Here it
All
goes.
right, Kenny Tucker. Well,
All right,
listen,
buddy.
good luck tomorrow helping these people become authentic. It's a long journey to get there, as we both know. So, good luck and kudos to you for making the effort instead of just simply creating the script and checking it off the box like so many companies do. So, good for you, man.
Yep, well, we'll see where it goes. I'll keep you in the know.
All right, thanks,
All
man.
right,
I'll see
you
you in
got it.
2 weeks.
You got it. Thanks,
All
guy.
right, bye.